Long time ago, I think I mentioned, even before the days of television, way back at home, New York, Bronx to be exact. My father was a clarinet player, so polka music was always in the household. And my mother used to tell me that at the age of 3, to accompany my father on clarinet, I sat behind the wooden stool that he made for me and made believe I was playing the piano. Uh, and so polka music was very popular in those days in New York City, especially because we had polka radio shows every day of the week.
So we begin with one by Ed Gutza and the Polish Canadians with Raise Your Glasses, niech się gra muzyka gra tutaj w WMUA, Amherst, Massachusetts. Good morning, dzień dobry, welcome, witamy. How are you?
Every day of the week. And being, we listened to radio because there was no TV. And of course, my mother and father were great lovers of polka music. And it wasn't that I was forced to listen to it, but it was so jovial that as a kid, I was bouncing around because I really enjoyed the rhythm of the music.
If you were to go back 30, 40 years ago, and if you looked at the dances and the crowds, and there used to be a lot more festivals. There used to be a festival in Connecticut, New London, Ocean Beach. There's still some festivals running, but a lot of the festivals have either stopped or have diminished greatly, or continue but don't continue for the amount of days they used to. But it is unfortunately a generational gap because the crowds that you would see 20 or 30 years ago were filled with young people. And today you just don't see that many young people attending the polka dances, not like you used to.
The young generation have so much other interests, and the families do not promote it or encourage the children or the adults to listen, and so some areas it is dying away.
I would say our audience is more of the older generation, probably in my area, 50s and up. But there are a lot of young people that show up for certain bands, so it's hard to really tell. Out in the Midwest, they have polka festivals that draw 10,000 people, 12,000 people to an event, so it's kind of hard to tell. It depends on what part of the country you're in. I know Texas has what they call a Worst Fest every year, and it draws like 40,000 people over a 3-day event, and it's all polka music.
Wow. Yes, we usually visit, we call it the hotspot of New England, the Ludlow Polish American Citizen Club in Ludlow, Massachusetts during the months from September to May. Mr. Ed Schella is the chairperson and brings bands from wherever. In the summer months, there's also another hot spot in New England, which they call Pulaski Park in Three Rivers, Massachusetts. They have dances starting in Memorial Day, Memorial Monday, right through September. So these two organizations kind of just lap over, so there's always polka dancing in the Massachusetts area. Then if you're going south, there's some clubs in Bristol, Connecticut, and occasional dances in Windsor Locks.
There's a couple local places. The Ludlow Polish American Citizens Club has dances from the fall through spring, and then in the summertime, Pulaski Park out in Three Rivers, Massachusetts is considered the polka capital of New England, and that's very popular there. And then a lot of churches have polka dances as well throughout the year. So there's several places. Connecticut has a couple places. Bristol Polish American Citizens Club has dances as well. But a lot of the churches that are ethnic also end up having polka dances because it's a good draw and a good moneymaker.
And as I said, as far as like outside of the country, it's just amazing that someone in Japan would be listening to polka music, or Puerto Rico, or Denmark, or the Netherlands. And with internet technology, we have the ability to track where our listeners are tuning in from. So, people outside of the country, we can actually tell what part of the state they're listening to, or country. And it's just amazing to, I'm still kind of astonished that someone in Japan actually has the show turned on.
I got a call from Europe. I think it was a gentleman from Denmark that called up one Saturday several years ago, and I thought he was pulling my leg, but he actually was, because we later emailed, and it was a DK, you know, for the .com. So that's probably the weirdest. But I have had my show played on ships when the Iranian conflict was going on. One of the listeners up in Turner's Falls had a son who was a captain on one of the ships, and he would tape the programs and then send it, and they would actually play it on the ships.
We have polka shows, primarily AM stations and some FM stations, but with the way the world has changed and the way that ad revenues and things have to be generated, it's very expensive to run a polka show. There are some polka shows in the area. WARE, for example, they have a show Sunday morning. There's two DJs, Joey Cargo and John Dill. Joey's on 9 to 10 and John's on 10 to 1. But they're on an AM station, and the only way they can stay on is to continue to get sponsors. We're fortunate here at WMUA. We're a non-commercial station, but our polka people keep us on the air when we do our annual polkathons. The station does an annual telethon, and it kicks off with the polkathon in the fall time. And we're very fortunate that our listeners in the Pioneer Valley and across the country donate each and every year, which helps keep the polka programming on 91.1 every weekend. But to answer your question, as far as FM and AM, they have diminished. There are some, but a lot of that has changed, and it's actually what the next wave really for polka music is: the internet. It's where you have the Polka Jammer Network and another network called 247 Polka Heaven, which are both about 10 years old now. And that's really where a lot of listeners are starting to go to. Part of the problem you run into is that, like a lot of our listeners here at WMUA, don't have computers. So, you know, they're of the generation that don't have access to a computer. So part of the problem you run into is they want to listen, but they don't have the capability to do so.
I think polka music is one of those genres that just won't disappear. It may never get as big as rock and roll or country. We recently lost the Grammy Award in the field. Jimmy Sturr had won it for like 18 years. And I think that might hurt it a little, but it's an underground type of music. I mean, there's certain types of music that'll never become really popular, but will still have a following, and I think polka music is one of those. So it's not dying, it's just in the background.
That's it, folks. It's time for us to say goodbye.
Good luck.
And God bless.